Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back to digitallage.com. And guys, before we move any forward, I want to let you know I have made some tiny changes to the design of this to-do maker that you can actually download from my website. And guys, if I'll click this particular add new button, here is our add new form. If you want, we can actually give it some padding from the left because it's actually very much with the sidebar, so we can give it some padding from the left. But very first, what we need is a calendar for a user so that they can actually select the due date instead of entering it manually, because if they're gonna enter it manually, they're gonna change the format, they're gonna enter the way they want, so it would be really difficult for us to make calculations later at on this page at the time, showing them how much time is left. So the better way is restrict the user and give them a calendar and ask them to make a selection from there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to jQueryUI.com, and here you can click demos and documentation, and from here you can grab a date picker. So here would be some default behavior that you can choose. Here is the very default one, and if you want, you can the get one with year as well. So we got the year, and there would be some with date range. So there are a lot of other calendars that you can choose, but the one we want is a very default one. And we can change the theme as well to make it sure that it's matching to the one we have on our website. So probably we can choose the blue one, that's Redmond. And here I'm gonna go to downloads. So guys, by default all these checkboxes would be clicked. So the very best way to know which particular libraries you want is go ahead and deselect all the components. Okay, once everything is deselected, go ahead and only select the one that you require. So I only require the date picker. Once I'm gonna click on it, it's gonna go ahead and it's gonna select all the necessary libraries are required in order to use the date picker. Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead. From here I'm gonna select the theme that I required, so I require the Redmond one, and I'm gonna click download. Okay, so once I download it, I'm gonna save it to my downloads folder. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead, I'm open it, cut it from here, and paste it to our to-do folder. So very first, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change my folder name of CSS to CSS1 because they're gonna contain their own CSS as well. So I don't want to override anything. Okay guys, it's done. I'm gonna delete it. We don't need any index.html file. We don't need any development bundle. Okay. And as far as the CSS concerned, I'm gonna take it from here. I'm gonna paste it here, delete their CSS folder, and change mine to CSS again. And here is the JS file that we require. So I'm gonna go to my statics. Here inside my header.php file, I'm gonna include all of them. So we already have a copy of jQuery, so we don't need to include this particular file, the one here on the top, but we do need the Jquery UI file. So I'm gonna come back here, and here I'm gonna say source towards js / the copy of Jquery file that we require, and we also need their style sheet. So that would be inside CSS, this particular folder, that's Redmond. So I'm gonna copy it, and probably here I'm gonna say it would be CSS / Redmond / the file name. Okay, guys, now we are done. Next thing we need to do is we need to know the ID or the class of the particular element where we want to call this calendar. So we want to call it inside the input box of this due date. So if I'm going to open my Firebug right now, if I'll see, it has an ID of due date. Okay, and if you will go back to Jquery UI, and if I'll go back to the demo, the very default one, here on the bottom it shows the entire source that we required in order to get it up and running. So on the very basic note, we only need the ID and we need to call the function called date picker. That's all. So I'm gonna copy it, from here, I'm going to come back probably here, and here I'm going to say dollar function to just make sure that DOM is ready before we go ahead and do something. And here instead of date picker, I'm going to say due date. Okay, so guys, come back, refresh your page, and let's see whether we have anything or not. So if I'll click on it, guys, out here we have our calendar. So if I'm going to click on it, you guys will notice it have a default date set to month really first, then the date, and then the year. No, we don't want that way. We want the year on the very front, and instead of these backward slashes, I actually need dashes. Okay, so for that you can go back to Jquery UI once again, and out here inside the options, you can come here on the bottom, and here it says how to set the date format. Okay, if I'm going to click on it, it's going to show me all the functions that we can use in order to set the date format. So the very one we need is this particular one. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to start and end the curly braces out here, and here I'm going to say date format to YYMMDD. That's what actually we require. Come back, guys, refresh your page once again, and if I'm going to select today's date, you will see a notice out here. The year is on the very front, then we have the month, and then we have the date. That's what it actually requires. Okay, guys, that's all with jQuery. Now we need to write some PHP in order to validate these fields. Actually we do require a title. The description won't be mandatory, but we do need a due date and the label where they actually want to nest their to-do. So we're going to write PHP for that. So very first, if I'll go back to my classes, out here is a class called manage-todo.php. And here is a create to-do, which requires the username, the title, description, due date, created on, and the status. So I'm going to change the status to label because we are not dealing with status anymore. And here I'm going to say label as well, and label at the time of creating the array. So okay, label here. That's fine, guys. So go ahead, very first create a table called to-do. So I'm going to say to-do with 6 fields. Okay, it's loading, and here I'm going to say an ID that I need a username, like which particular user have created it. Okay, then I need the title, a description, then would be the due date, that would be created on. So that's all we have till now. Okay, guys, I'm going to add a couple of more fields, probably 2. Then here I'm going to say label. Let me check out what all we need: a username, a title, a description, due date, created date, and a label. So instead of created on, I'm going to say created date, and here I'm going to say a short form for description, and I'm going to make the label to varchar. Let's say a label can be 100, and created date, let's say varchar to 60, and due date, let's say varchar to 40. A description can be text because they can write whatever they want. So I'm going to say a text field. Okay. For the title, let's say varchar and limited to 200 only. And a username can be a varchar to 150. And for the ID, we're going to call it, an auto increment and a primary key. So auto increment from here and primary from the drop down. So come back and save our table. Okay, so I'm going to save it right now. It's done. And if I'll open it, okay, this is actually what we need. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to create a new file inside my libs folder, and I'm going to call this one to create to-do. Okay, .php. Very first inside this class, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to include the class we require. So we require our manage to-do class in order to do anything. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say core/class manage to-do.php. Okay. Very first, guys, we need to create an instance of this class. So I'm going to say init equals to, okay, here it says manage users. That's a I want to say manage to do. Okay, so I'm going to copy it and I'm going to say a new instance of this particular class so that we can actually work with the methods inside it. Guys, then I'm going to say if set $post, like if there is a post request from this particular button name. Okay, so I'm going to open my Firebug once again and I'm going to check out the button name. That's create to do. Okay, so if set $post create to do, then go ahead and create a couple of variables. The very first one gonna be the title, that would be equals to $post title. Okay, then let's say description would be equals to $post description. Then we need the due date, so I'm gonna say due date will be $post due date. Okay, and then we need the label, so here I'm going to say $label will be equals to $post label. Okay, so come back, guys, and actually I'm going to check out the field names inside add new.php, whether they are same or not. So title is here it is description, due date, and here it says label under. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change that. So here it says label under. Then, guys, we need to make sure that the user is not making these fields empty. So I'm going to say if empty $title, okay, or empty due date, okay, or empty $label. We're gonna let the user know echo all fields are required except the optional one. Okay, and come back to add new.php and just with the description here I'm going to start a small tag and I'm going to say optional. So the field which says optional are not required. Apart from that, all fields are required. So come back, refresh the page. Here it says optional. If you want, you can change the font size to 10 or 9 pixels. Guys, next thing we need to include this file here. So I'm gonna say include once libs/create todo.php. Okay, and out here I'm gonna create a form. So here I'm gonna say a form with the method to post and action to be the same page. So that would be add new.php. Okay, so come back, and probably here I'm gonna end my form tags. So guys, go ahead and test whether we have any errors or we have not. So here it says there is syntax error on line number 9. Okay, awesome. So probably line number 9, because we are not ending the statement with a semicolon. Refresh once again. It says include once core/class manage to do.php not found. No problems. We can actually check out what our problem is. Okay, because the folder name is not core, it needs to be classes. Okay, refresh, everything's fine. And guys, instead of saying echo, probably make it to a variable called error. Okay, and out here on the top we can actually show the error. So I'm going to go back to Bootstrap. I'm going to go to components, and then I'm going to come here to the very bottom. From here I'm actually grab this alert class. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to come back to add new.php, and probably here, or what, here I can say, no, I'm really sorry, it needs to be inside the main body. So somewhere out here I'm gonna say php if is set $error, like if there is any error, then go ahead and echo $error. Okay, quite simple. So come back, refresh this particular page. It says there is a syntax error, like we are not ending the curly brace. Okay, So right now I'm gonna hit create, and here it says all fields are required except the optional one. So user do need to enter a title, a due date, and a label under. Okay, that's fine, guys. So come back here. I'm gonna say else. Go ahead and then say a title. Choose thread tags $title. Okay, and do the same thing. Come back. I'm gonna copy the description. Probably we don't need to do it with due date, and probably not with the labels, because they are predefined, so a user cannot enter any junk out there. So I'm gonna copy it. After that, I'm gonna say MySQL real escape string. Okay, so I'm gonna copy it and I'm gonna paste. And then, guys, we need to call the particular function that will create it. So go back. I'm gonna copy create to do with all the parameters we require. So copy it from here. Come back. I'm gonna say $init like this. Okay. For username, because we're gonna make it equals to the session. But guys, till now we haven't created any session file, so we need to create that as well. But very first, I'm gonna say username, just hard code it to Bob. Okay, but don't worry, we're gonna make a session file in this video. Then for the title, we already have here. For the description, we're gonna enter this particular variable. We already have the due date from here top. And guys, I'm gonna say $created on. Okay, let's say created on to date y m and d. Okay, that would be today's date. So I believe that's all. And here I'm gonna say create to do. Okay, then I'm gonna say if $create to do is equals to 1. That means we are able to insert one row successfully in our database. Then go ahead and here say $success would be equals to do created successfully. To do created successfully. Okay, I believe that's fine. And probably here I can say an error. There was an error. There was an error. Okay. And guys, for the success, what we can do is we can actually copy this particular div and come back to our add new.php. Here I can say the same thing, if it's at $success like this, then go ahead, echo $success. So here I'm going to say $success. So come back, guys, refresh the page. Here it says all fields are required. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to say the title to first one. Okay, description to this is the first one. Okay, a due date, let's say 15th. A label under, let's say, inbox. Hit create. Nothing happened. That's amazing. Go ahead and go back to our to-do. And we don't have anything out here. Okay, let me check out what the exact problem is. So there it says insert into to-do, username, title, description, created date or label. So we have 3 here and 3 here, 6, and we have 6 question marks. That's fine here. Execute row counts. So everything's fine with at least our class. If I'm gonna come back to create to do.php, let me check it out. What's the real deal? So it says created on a due date to due date. Create to do is equals to 1. There's error. Probably it needs to go like this. Error. Come back, refresh. It says there was an error, so let me check out why it's doing that. So init create to do. Okay, guys, so I actually put the video on pause for some second, and let me tell you what the problem is, why we are not able to make any entry to our database. Guys, because we are using a short form for our description, and if you guys will notice, SQL already have descending in their query, so they will never gonna use us any field name which actually matches to any instance in their query. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna change this thing to description. Okay, and guys, we need to change it here. Okay, I have already changed that. So go ahead and create one right now. So I'm gonna say first one, and you'll say hey, a due date, let's say for tomorrow, and say inbox. And oh my gosh, still there is an error. So come back. Let's see. Oh, but we already have one in here. So let me check out why. Okay. Here I have to say counts equals to dollar query uh, row count. Okay, and here let me say return dollar count. So come back, refresh once again. Here it says success to created successfully, guys. Okay, guys. Next thing we need to make sure is that we do have a session class or probably a session file inside our folders, because we don't want anyone to go ahead and access these files without logging in. So I'm going to create a new file. I'll probably name it to session.php. Here I'm going to say session start. Okay, and I'm going to open the file called login users. And guys, if you will notice, we have created a session here called Todo name. So I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it here. And guys, if this particular session Todo name exists, then I'm going to say dollar probably say session name would be equals to this particular session. So copy it from here, paste it here, and if it does not exist, guys, let's go ahead and say else header location back the user to login.php. So header location login.php. What our file name is. Yep. Okay, guys. And now next thing we need to do is we need to include this file in our header, because if you will notice, our header file is included in every single file. So here I'm going to say include once libs / session.php. So come back and you're not doing recent. Let's hit this, and guys, see, I have been redirected to login.php, so that means I need to log in once again. So okay, it says invalid credentials. I know why, because if I'm gonna go to libs, I'm gonna go to my login users, I have to use an MD5 here probably. So come back, or let me see what my credentials are. I don't have any user. Okay, that's funny, guys. So probably you guys can go ahead and you can try to work with these sessions, and if there is any problem, do let me know, because I'm not gonna make any registrations right now. So I'm gonna see you guys next time. Goodbye.